A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Ahsoka Tano and Sabine Wren have somewhat mended their already fractured relationship to go find their friend Ezra Bridger, who seems to be in a neighboring galaxy. But the way is blocked, and the only way that they could find is through a map that is held by Balin Skoll and his apprentice Shin Hati. While on their trail, the two arrive at the planet Acetos, where not only do they realize that their adversaries are on the planet's surface, but they find a massive hyperspace ring, and they realize they're also on their way to the neighboring galaxy. While in a conflict around the ring, Shin manages to knock out Ahsoka's ship, and she is down on the planet Cetos. They are on the way to find their adversaries and the map itself. And this is where our story continues in Ahsoka episodes 4 and 5 here on Fake Nerds Watch. I am Ben Magnet. I am here with my bros, Brandon T. McClure.
Hello, hi. The episode's titles are Fallen Jedi and, oops, I got it. Shadow Warrior.
There we go.
And of course, I was Sparkz Witty.
It's turning into a recap of one episode, but we're not going to give a description of the next in that opening.
And
basically recapped episode 4.
No, episode
summary.
Who's Anakin Skywalker?
Episode 4 is when they're on the planet's surface.
Episode 4
We're
is
talking
when
about
they get
two
to the
episodes.
surface.
What?
Anyway, hey, I'm Ryan Oleopoulos. We're here to talk about 2 lovely episodes of Ahsoka. Right? It's 2 episodes we watched?
Yeah.
Okay.
Episode 4, episode 5. First episode, Fallen Jedi, directed by Peter Ramsey, written by Dave Filoni, and of course Dave Filoni writes the entire series. So, Shadow Warrior, which is episode 5, was directed by Dave Filoni as well. Peter Ramsey of Into the Spider-Verse fame.
Yeah, good for him. Doing, I think he directed like a Mando or 2 too.
He went from Into the Spider-Verse to Mandalorian and then now to Ahsoka.
Good for him. He directed some pretty good action, if I don't say so myself. You want to go?
Well, I was going to say, I think that these 2 episodes are very good. So let's get started with episode 4. I believe we're going to do 4 and then we'll do 5 because 5 is a pretty chunky episode. I don't want to I don't want to cross pollinate too much. But episode 4, the ship needs to be fixed. And my first note is I really like the actress who plays Sabine. I really do. I think she's great. I think she's delightful.
Absolutely, yeah. I liked episode 4 quite a lot. I liked the series. Thankfully, again, your mileage on Star Wars will vary, but I think if you meet the show halfway, I think it'll give a lot to you. Again, especially if you are fans of previous Star Wars things such as Rebels, which Dave Filoni created and did all that stuff for. So I think all the character stuff's really great. I haven't totally loved all the action in this show, but I think this has the best action in episode 4. And it's pretty much an action-packed episode of nothing but lightsaber battles. But they all felt, personal. They're not just there to be there. It felt like they all had fun conflict in between each battle. And I think it's really cool, and it left us in an interesting place. And then episode 5 happened. So I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be enjoying the show.
Xander, friend of the show, Xander, because I at this point I've recorded a Lower Decks episode with him. Said that this is the only show he turned off halfway through the first episode.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, because I wanted to comment on what you were saying about if you meet the show halfway, it's gonna give you a lot. And for us who have seen Rebels, there's a lot here. That we can mine, and I'm so happy that we are here, and that I really like the show. I'm not gonna say for the most part. I do. I really like the show. I think as we get further along, I am curious if there's going to be people who are like friend of the show Xander, who are just kind of you know what, not for me. Because I did not feel that way in the first episode. I thought it was very new watcher friendly, but I hear more and more how people are tuning it off because of they feel that Rebels is required viewing, and I don't know if I feel that way.
Just to respond to that before I get my other 2 friends' inputs. Just from online talk, it's not so much even the Rebel stuff, it's just people think the show's kind of slow and boring, and I will meet them there and say it is slow. Specifically the way Dave Filoni is pacing the show, the way people talk, the way people walk. It's very prequels. It's very deliberate. It's very slow. But like again, like I don't necessarily think that's bad. It's just you gotta be there with it. And like if you don't meet it halfway, I think it is slow. But I don't think the thing it is giving you is bad, unlike other shows that are slow and boring. I think this one is just slow and deliberate. And when we get to the action, I think the action is really good. But that's just something of like preference of like, if you aren't invested in these characters, if you're just coming to, hey, this is a brand new Star Wars show, it's slow as shit. So like, I'm not gonna, this isn't an Andor or even like a Boba Fett, right? It is moving at a slow pace. So like, I will agree with that, but I don't have a problem with that. You know, it is not a problem for me, but again, I'm coming with so much love for this stuff anyway. So it's kind of hard for me to separate it from that.
Yeah. I think that there's an amount of kind of working against what you're trained to expect from streaming era television, and especially Star Wars streaming era television, that like the other Star Wars shows don't generally move this slow.
It's almost like a prestige show. Like I'm not going to say it's as good as like an HBO show, but it feels like a prestige show in the way it's like handling it.
Even I agree to an extent with that, but I think it's also just a show that to me, and I guess when this comes out, who knows? I might be wrong. But to me, it feels like a show that's structured to be a season one of a long build to a story that they're telling.
Yeah.
And even Mandalorian isn't structured that way.
Yeah.
You know, like Mandalorian knows that there will be more, but like it's got its season and it's focused on what it's driving forward. It's not carrying some over large like mystery as the main thrust of the plot, of in this context being like, are we going to get to Thrawn? Are we going to get to Ezra? How do we get there? All that stuff. Like that's all just driving it. And I think episodes 1 and 2 are a little slow because I think they have to kind of hold a lot of hands into. I think it would have been faster if it had the full expectation, if it were a true Rebels season 5, right? I think those episodes probably are one episode and move a lot quicker because you know that there's an audience that doesn't need their hands held through all this information. And I think that slows it down. And I'll also even say like, I'm fine with it. It's not a personal complaint, but I can recognize that realistically episodes 3 and 4 probably should have been a single episode.
Mm-hmm.
Like getting out there, getting the ship brought down to the planet, going and confronting them. That's probably all one episode. And honestly, that would have just been probably 65 minutes. So a slightly longer episode, but it would have done all of that information.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was worth making people wait an extra week and then a week after that for what would come next, instead of just putting those two things together.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say I'm really enjoying Ahsoka. After Rebels, I don't want to say Rebels is required viewing, but I will say it definitely helps. I mean, of course, it definitely helps. Like you definitely know what happened to the characters. You know what happened to Ahsoka, and that's in that series, and all this other stuff that's there, and it helps. The only thing I want to push back, or not even push back, is I don't know, because all the love I've been seeing nothing but love for Ahsoka on my Twitter timeline. I've been seeing so many people talk about how the show is great, how all like especially the love for Sabine, for Hera. I mean, there's a little bit of love for Rosario Dawson, but it's mostly about all the Rebels characters and how the show is such a great sequel to Rebels. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I am so glad I sat down and watched the entirety of Rebels, because now that is enhancing my love of Ahsoka, and just like Rebels did before, it's making me fall in love with Star Wars again. There's
a certain amount of weird Star Wars that Rebels kind of brought into this idea that I do really like. You know, the whales that can go through hyperspace, the world between worlds, like these things are not something you're going to see in the films, and they are things that you saw in Rebels. And so seeing those things translate to live action in this way has been really rewarding for me, because it shouldn't be this way, but there is a sense of validation when something comes from animation to live action, and I don't personally believe that, but we've talked about it many times on this show, and before the show was even starting, that people who write off things like Rebels will now see this and say, as kind of a validation of the thing. People will now care about Thrawn because he's no longer a Rebels character. He's no longer an animated character. He's now a live action character. And so like you have, it's really exciting to see like the weirdness of the Force and Star Wars and all these elements kind of come into this live action space. And really, just really fun to see. That's kind of where I'm like, man, we can't talk about it now, but in episode 5, there's a scene that just like, I almost wept. It was so beautiful. But yeah, we'll talk about it when we get there. Sorry, Sparkz, did you have something?
Well, I think episodes 4 and 5 probably would do a lot to get, I don't know, to get more people on board who are maybe not feeling Ahsoka. But even then, like, my wife's enjoying it. My wife acknowledged that she has more knowledge than the average person because of just like hearing me talk about things. And that's like more than just the osmosis of like most people are aware that Ahsoka exists if they're even tangentially aware of Star Wars. Like she has more. And then there's her sister, and her sister's like,
Sure.
I don't know. I don't really care. And I do feel like that's just gonna be a nature of it and the nature of the beast, and it's gonna be really interesting. There really will come a point with any of this that people will want to get on board. And it's hard for me not to think that like the previous season of Mando and Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi probably did this dirty. Like, I think if we're in a world where only the first 2 seasons of Mando had come out and then this show, there's probably a lot more positive reception and people wanting to engage with Star Wars and people wanting to come and meet it at what it wants to be and really be like, oh wow, take me on this wild new adventure. Also, and like I think Boba Fett for sure, Obi-Wan Kenobi a bit, I think too, and certainly that last season of Mando. Yeah, they did some damage.
I wish during the marketing, because we're saying like it's a different medium, but like with all of DC's new stuff, it's like, hey, we're promoting this thing. Look at the comic that it's based off of, right there. I wish any of this Ahsoka marketing was like, hey, are you interested in Ahsoka? We have 4 seasons of a TV show you can watch. We have 7 seasons of Clone Wars you can watch. She's in all of it. She's in a lot of that shit, and they're not promoting any of that. And I'm like, they don't even care enough about their own properties to promote Ahsoka. So I'm like, I feel like it's all, like they're not even helping themselves.
On that point, Brian, I think you're absolutely correct in that, because I noticed something, because I let the credits just kind of roll until they get to the little box and it says like play the next episode on Disney Plus. I noticed that when I finished episode 5, both times, it didn't say, now that you're done watching this, watch Rebels or Clone Wars. It said watch Mando.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not
one episode of Ahsoka in there.
You should be telling me after I'm done watching Ahsoka. The algorithm should be telling me once you're done watching Ahsoka to watch Clone Wars or Rebels.
Absolutely.
Back when Mando season 2 happened and Ahsoka first showed up in live action, Disney Plus was promoting like that selected curated playlist of here's the best Ahsoka episodes from Clone Wars and Rebels you should watch if you want to get to know Ahsoka real quick. And that playlist still exists, but you have to look for it now. Yeah. It's not being promoted it wasn't being promoted along with the show in anticipation of it or anything like that. And I think that's a mistake. And I also kind of want to use this to talk about like a note. I want to get into the specifics of the episodes, obviously, but before we do that, like being at this moment now, I very firmly feel like putting Ahsoka in that episode in the Book of Boba Fett was a mistake. I feel like it's so inconsistent with the character arc of who she feels like she is in season 2 to what we're doing here. Who she is when she's standing next to Luke, who she seems to be presented to be in that episode. And, then all the other things I don't really like about what that episode does to the story and things like that, and that it didn't belong in Book of Boba Fett, yada, yada, yada.
I mean,
but there seems like a clear line of who she is in that first appearance in the Jedi episode of Mando to this show. And that moment with Luke feels all kinds of like, I don't know, is this really how you talk to Luke if you're still like you're just like so much like your father with a big smile when you're still carrying all this like pain around Anakin almost, and all this kind of stuff? I don't think so. And it just seems so thoughtless of the arc that it was going to be on.
Just to reiterate on that, I will shout from the heavens that the Mandalorian episode in Book of Boba Fett is the biggest mistake of that entire miniseries. I will shout it from the heavens because that was just.
We're all on the same page on that one, honestly.
We are. I just got flashbacks. So it's like I am watching the Book of Boba Fett. Why am I with Luke Skywalker?
Ben's like, oh god, not again.
Mando thing shows
up. Just going to Ahsoka after watching episodes 4 and 5 especially. I am going to say something a little bit bold. But this is how I feel right at this moment in time. This might change when it comes out, when the series ends. But as of right now, Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars show.
Interesting.
Did you watch Andor?
At least it's my favorite.
Andor.
At least it's my favorite. No, Andor is the best one. That's like there's a difference between the best one and my personal favorite.
That's true.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, my personal favorite is Ahsoka. As of now, just because of all the stuff I am getting, not only with Ahsoka, but also with the Rebels crew. And the fact that they are, and especially with episodes 4 and 5, because for a while, it's again, this feels like, especially with episodes 2 and 3, it felt a lot more like this is more of a Rebels sequel than an Ahsoka sequel. But then with episodes 4 and 5, especially episode 5, it brought back to, like, I know Ahsoka is the focal point, and it made me. And it was just like this great mishmash that really clicked with me. Even with episode 4, like with Ahsoka fighting Balin's skull and her whole thing, like thinking that Sabine was dead. I am absolutely in love with this show. I am absolutely 100% enjoying it. I don't know if I'm the hottest person on this show. I do hear the criticisms. I do 100% get it. But every time the new episode of Ahsoka comes up, I am jonesing to watch it, and I haven't felt this way.
I don't think this show would hit Rebels for me, and it won't hit Andor for me. Like, there's no way. But it is quite frankly, like, I would say it's probably number 3 of like if we're just doing shows. Even if we're just doing like Star Wars as a whole, it's probably going to be up there when it's done if it nails it.
I mean. I should probably reiterate this is my favorite live action Star Wars show.
I was going to ask that. I was like, are you putting this above Rebel? Because I don't think
hell no, Rebel. Hell no. Actually, Clone Wars is up next on my queue, and I'm like at episode 10 of the first season of Clone Wars, and I do want to watch Clone Wars.
Hell yeah.
Because I cannot believe how much I've switched on the animated Star Wars shows, because I was like, oh, the animated Star Wars shows, they're not that good. You would think that when I watched the episode with my nephew all those years ago, when it's revealed that Darth Maul is still alive and he has spider legs, I would have hopped on a Clone Wars right then and there.
It's every boy's dream. Cool. Spider legs.
I didn't, but now like the more I'm watching, the more I watched all the Rebels, and the more I'm watching Ahsoka, now I'm like, I just want to experience all of the Clone Wars. And I did watch the last few episodes of the Siege of Mandalore, the final season, so because we did that at FNW a few years ago. Now it's just I want to watch more. Even like once we got to Captain Rex and Rebels, is like I know Captain Rex is like one of the coolest characters ever, but I want to know more.
Can I tell you something you should just do right now or soon, Ben? Because you don't need to watch a bunch of Clone Wars, because you've already watched Siege of Mandalore, which would be the only one I would say is important to what I'm about to say. You should go watch the 3 Ahsoka episodes of the Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah, I should.
Because that's going to give you some real nice stuff. Just real quick, good Ahsoka beats that really feed you.
Some juicy nugs.
Getting into the specifics of episode 4. What I think is so it's so well structured in putting Sabine and Ahsoka in. It's really the first time I felt like this master apprentice relationship is something and is something like concrete and real and that this was the show me don't tell me of this relationship. Because obviously this was something we've talked about before that wasn't in Rebels, so it's new to all of us, and it's been a lot of talking about the dynamic between them of being this, and like obviously we saw like some of the training stuff in the previous episode and we saw how they got along, but this felt like actual, okay, I feel the sense of a relationship of previous master apprenticeship and returning to that and all that. This felt like it really delivered on the promise of that.
That's a really good point. I think I agree with you on that one. There's this sense of like this master and apprentice dynamic is throughout the show. Balin and Shin are also representative of that, and Ahsoka has. I do think that what my disinterest in Rosario Dawson and the role aside, I do think that there is something here as far as what she's doing. She is warm with Sabine in a way that she's worried about because of her being, but there's also like nuggets in the episode that I'm so curious about. There's a line where I think Balin says that Sabine might have been at the Night of 1,000 Tears that destroyed Mandalore.
It's definitely related to that. This has actually been going around for a while. It's also been, we've talked about it, that this was kind of our suspected theory of like, what was the reason that Sabine and Ahsoka had a falling out? Why did Ahsoka leave her as a master? And it does seem to be, though obviously we're waiting for more information, that at least the read that I have at this moment and that I was already theorizing, so this has only fed that, is what Balin's alluding to, is that Sabine wanted to go save her family and Ahsoka said no.
Yeah.
Because she knew they would die. And if they did, and I think Sabine blames Ahsoka for keeping her from that, from saving her family from the purge.
And what I find interesting about that is kind of recontextualizing their relationship into the original trilogy, because like that, the destruction of Mandalore didn't happen after Return of the Jedi. It probably happened sometime before. So Sabine and Ahsoka were there on Lothal training throughout the original trilogy. And I like that kind of recontextualization of their relationship, that this has been happening for at least 10 years or so. I think at this point, at the timeline, it's 10 years since Rebels ended. But I like, so kind of contextualizing the relationship to be that Sabine, the rift happened because of the destruction of Mandalore that the Empire inflicted on the galaxy. It's so juicy. I'm really interested to see where that goes.
Yeah, I kind of like that. I like the idea that it feels like the only thing that could warrant such a divide. And like there's an amount of Sabine going like, it allows Sabine that right amount of, I'm really upset that you said no, even as I logically understand we would have been killed.
Yeah.
Like my logical brain, and even overthinking on it and reflecting on it over time, knows we would have just gone there to die as well. But the emotional part of me, the part of me that feels like I should have been there and I should have done something, blames you.
Yeah.
And it's that right amount of like, that's very relatable. That's very like, of course, both things are true at the same time. I'm emotionally upset about this, but I logically understand.
I am emotionally compromised.
Yeah, and I think that leaves it in a really interesting space. It's one of those things where like, I kind of also hope that's true, what you're kind of alluding to about where it is in relation to the original trilogy, that like during most of Empire Strikes Back and New Hope and all that, Ahsoka's training Sabine in the hopes that like they'll be a great weapon to destroy the Empire. Because it is one of those things where like the more and more you ruminate on it, the more and more we don't have an answer to the question. It's like, why did Ahsoka seek out Luke? Like, you know, why did that happen? Like, surely she heard the name of the pilot that blew up the Death Star.
Right.
Like, there's a certain point where you go,
Yeah.
Ahsoka knows Luke's there. Like, she
just one of those things.
And you can do a lot. You can like say like, oh, it's because of the pain and separation between Anakin. It's not her place. She talked to Yoda. I don't like. There's all kinds of things that can happen.
Yoda's like, yo, chill. We don't need you here right now.
You stay with Sabine. We've got this.
Yeah.
Me and the ghost of Obi-Wan got this. You chill.
Your plan B. Your plan B.
Right? Yeah.
And then there's Grogu's out there somewhere.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing is like the idea of her actually like working on something with Sabine, both for herself and for Sabine and for the future. That at least gives her purpose during that time, because that's my biggest problem is like I don't mind Ahsoka not showing up or not seeking out Luke or not being involved in the original trilogy.
Gotta be doing something,
around,
though.
but she has to have purpose. She can't just like be doing nothing, because that's the part I can't accept. I can't accept that she's just listlessly wandering on a planet until it's like, oh, the Empire got defeated, allow me to climb out of my rock. So if she's doing something that's like fulfilling in that way, then I can accept it. I can be like, great, she was this is what the purpose was during that time. That's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Luke,
She was
left.
go ahead, Ben.
No, I was just gonna redo a meme that's come out recently where it's the scene in Return of the Jedi where Luke is at Yoda's hut on Dagobah, and Yoda's like, "Next to the Jedi you'll be, except for Ezra Bridger, Cal Kestis, Ahsoka's out there somewhere, but she's technically not a Jedi." You know, naming all the other Jedi characters that we know and love.
Grogu, Jason.
Yeah, Jason is
Sabine the 0.5.
Just cut to Return of the Jedi, and it's like, no, there is another, and another, and another, and another, and actually another as well.
There's that one. There's that other one.
Truth be told,
They gotta stop making more Jedi.
Yoda didn't mean Leia; he meant Ahsoka in Return of the Jedi.
There's such an interesting dynamic there that I'm so curious to where that goes. I want to highlight something real quickly before I move on, which is that when the droids ambush Huyang, it's our first droid fight in Star Wars, and it looked really cool.
It did.
It's pretty sick. Not only that, but is it the first droid fight?
I'm pretty sure. I can't think of another one.
If we're not counting like R2 dropping oil on some dudes and lighting them on fire.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
I was gonna say, didn't we see K2SO like beat the shit out of one of his like his same type?
I don't think so. I think we just see him hijack him.
Yeah, we just see him
hijack.
We get them a knuckle sandwich.
Okay, I guess that's not a fight.
Okay, really, okay, not really deep, couple. This is really technicality. But when 3PO's head is on top of a battle droid, and
I don't count that.
Died,
no.
He doesn't have good aim. He can't shoot.
Is or isn't? It looks pretty good.
And like his extra arms come out.
Droid fight in Star Wars, because obviously Chopper murders.
Oh yeah, no.
Rebel Cell.
At any rate, I really like I think the fight is well choreographed, and you see his extra arms kind of come out and like punch.
Yes,
it's pretty cool.
Hell.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And the way that he pulls the lights to get their attention.
That daft droid, really, he would not do that on purpose, honey. You gotta go.
I like that. It's always funny to me. This is not the first time it's happened, but it's always funny to me when someone covers the mouth of a droid and they turn muffled, and I'm like, would that really work that way?
I mean, if you muffle like, this,
you gotta do it like really tight, because otherwise it's just like a slit that the speaker is just coming out of anyway.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of like the Huyang one, because it wasn't necessarily like you can actually hear him yell help. It was just turned down.
Yeah, he didn't go full blown Chopper.
Yeah. I don't know Chopper in the show, I'll be honest. I want to see him. That droid, you can tell he is so ready to commit some more crimes. He is ready for it.
Dude, he's the babysitter like this entire show, and you could tell he does not want to do this.
He's like,
he probably likes
give me more crime.
He's like, if Hera wasn't the one person I liked most in the universe,
100%,
this boy would be dead.
He pushed off that cliff.
Like, if it wasn't Hera's kid, then this guy is screwed. Because he remembers who his father is. Because even like just like looking back on Rebels, all the times when Kaden was just like yelling at Chopper and Chopper was giving him sass, and it's like, if it wasn't for Hera, this kid would be off that cliff. Because I know who half of him is.
We talk about how peacetime like affects warriors, and like how war shapes people. And there's even a bit like in episode 5 that I'll get into. But like, I don't think anybody in the Rebels crew took to peacetime worse than probably Chopper.
Oh yeah. He
who's
wants to blow
just-
shit up.
who in episode the first time we meet him says, "Why don't you just drop this on a city full of people?"
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
bad would that be? Really?
He's
Really?
he's not like John Wick, where like he gets a nice life and he'll retire happy. He's like, there's no retiring for me.
No.
I'm a soldier. I will never grow up in ranks. I'm a soldier on the front lines. Give me a gun.
Oh.
Chopper achieved enough sentience to ask the question, like, are droids just servants or are we our own people? And then that drove him insane enough to say, I'm just chaos now.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I don't know why. Ryan, the second you said that there is no retiring from war, it reminded me of Jeremy Renner's character from the Hurt Locker. Because you know how
Sure,
in the
yeah,
movie he
he's-
comes back from Afghanistan and then
He's an adrenaline junkie. No, that's an actually
he's
interesting
yeah.
comparison, but it is apt.
yeah, it very weird. I don't know why my brain went there, but it's like
He keeps going back. He loves war. No, it's,
Yeah,
it's
he went. He
Chopper and
goes back
Jeremy Renner.
to dismantling bombs in a war zone, whereas Chopper's like, I am comfortable where shit's blowing up around me.
To keep it on Chopper, Hera, and Jason, I'm glad that Hera is just like, I can't sit around and do nothing. I don't care what they say. I'm going to help them. I'm going to help Sabine. And I, hey, look, man, I get that at this point he's probably a quote unquote glup shitto, but when I saw Carson Teva, I got really excited.
No,
Everybody did.
yeah, he's a cool guy. He's a cool guy. Everyone likes Carson. He's a
Yeah,
cool
we
guy.
get the ghost. We get the
Yeah,
ghost
man.
for real.
They say Phoenix leader,
They do.
They do.
which
They're
is
part
great.
of Phoenix Force.
I love it.
Carson Teva that's Appa from Kim's Convenience, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I get so happy every time I see him in a Star
It's
Wars
the guy
show.
who they didn't take another picture for a different poster.
Yes, that's funny. Yeah, he didn't get his own show, so they're like, "Hey, Carson, we're gonna throw you a bone. We're gonna give you some more. We're gonna throw you in Ahsoka because he was gonna get that
Well,
Rangers of the New Republic show."
He's in this quite a bit. I
Yeah.
do wonder, I kind of wonder if maybe he can't have, I do wonder if, like, maybe they thought about moving Rangers of the New Republic to be about him, but he's doing Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? He's Uncle Iroh. So I wonder if that prevented that.
I think he was 100% like the co-lead. It
Yeah.
was going to be
Oh, yeah.
him and
Oh,
Gina
yeah.
Carano like leading that show, and they were like, "Can it just be him?" I think it had less to do with like his schedule and more to do with just like,
They didn't.
should we make this show
They don't
right now?
They don't. As good as
in
he is, like
this-
they don't believe
in
it.
this current Star Wars moment? Is this the path we should take?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because
but
like honestly, you could have slotted out Gina Carano and found a reason to slot in Timothy Oliphant.
Make him a pilot.
Oh,
Absolutely.
I want that now.
Now
I
I'm
want
mad.
that now.
He's getting like cyborg parts. He's still alive.
To be fair,
He is.
I would love more of Cobb Vanth in all the Star Wars stuff.
Oh, hell yeah.
I love it. The thing is, you have to do a lot of character work to convince me of why he not only should leave the planet of Tatooine, but gives a shit about what's going on in the Inner Rim, because he's very much like an Outer Rim isn't cared enough about, which is why I'm out here giving a shit about the Outer Rim. So I can't see him necessarily becoming a Ranger of the New Republic. But if you can find the right character and story reason, then I'm all for it.
Just bring the story to him. They crash land on Tatooine. Oh, that's the
Again.
only reason. It's the only reason. If Combat is there, that's my Tatooine.
The only reason we want to keep
Screw
going back to
Tatooine,
is because of
But it
Timothy
balances
Oliphant.
out if
Yeah,
I get to see
sure.
the elephant.
You brought up the Ryan, you brought up the fight choreography a little bit earlier in this discussion. I really like the fight between Balin and Ahsoka. I think there's a lot of thought that goes into their movements and their stances. Ahsoka has a very samurai like stance, the way she's holding her sword, the way she's holding her lightsaber, the way she moves her lightsaber, whereas Balin is very much like a knight of the round table type of stance. And I
Very
think
heavy,
there's such an interesting thing happening when they fight that just looks visually cool to me.
She's very interestingly only using one of her lightsabers for fighting him.
Yeah.
I did make a note about that specifically. It's every once in a while you get a lightsaber battle that feels like it's actually more about the swings that they don't take than the ones that they do.
Mm.
So,
And I felt like
they're both
there's a
holding
lot
back.
of there's a lot of like in your most gracious of readings, right, of the final conflict between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in A New Hope. Why is it that they take so few swings? Why are they like as paced as they are? They're already recognizing in each other every move that won't work and they're trying to find the right move. And they don't need to do all the things that they do in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, because they are at a different point in their relationship to the Force. And so it's far more aware of like, my moves have to be precise. They have to be thoughtful. This is not the same, like just swing it around with emotion. This is any strange, and it does go back to like samurai tradition, right? Like far less swings happen because they're far more thoughtful. And that's a lot of what's happening here, is there's a lot of space between the actual attacks.
I mean,
because every strike is far more considered. And so you really feel like the time where like there's an opening there, but also Balin knows that opening would potentially ruin him in the fight.
I mean,
for
really,
Ahsoka.
I just want real quickly before we move on to that. That's a really beautiful reading of both those fights. I think Sparkz. I really enjoyed that.
I'm gonna say that goes also to the Marok fight. His whole thing is about, I have 1,000 slashes a minute, while Ahsoka just waits. Just waits because she knows the right opportunity. It's like, oh, I don't need to take 1,000 slashes. I just need just the one.
Because you brought Marok. I'm kind of I don't. How do we feel that it's just dust in the wind?
I love it. Because if he would have just got slashed and fell, I'd be like, ah. But the fact that he puffed out dark magic juice, I'm like, well, okay, we're doing something weird.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because like it is always kind of a bummer when you like put a lot of speculation on the character and it turns out to be nothing. I get that for like fans, but like I'm never someone who gets too hurt about that. There's interesting canon implications to him bursting out. This idea that like the Inquisitors, they can die, but they can't not be slaves to Darth Vader. Even in death, they are constantly slaves to Vader. And so it kind of creates Marok, this tragic story when we see him. He wasn't a living being. He was someone who was brought back to life, who was probably an Inquisitor during the Rebels time period, died, and is now tortured, and now has to be alive again doing this bidding. There's some interesting implications that they obviously will not go into. But you can kind of like work your way through canon to find out the kind of the tragic telling of maybe tragic telling of Marok.
Yeah, I think to that point, like while I really love the idea when we were doing our theories last time of what could it mean if it's Galen and it's Darth Vader's apprentice versus Anakin's apprentice, and I'm like, there's a lot of juicy material there if they wanted to do that. But I agree with what Ryan's essentially saying, which is just if he'd just been slashed and put out of the show, and it's like, okay, well, why was he here? But the fact that like the way he's taken out of the fight is in this magnificent explosion of dust, it instead of like squashing all our questions and theories and speculation,
new questions.
It just pivots it into a new direction of like, well, what did that mean?
and not so much like who is it, but like
how does
why?
That work?
How? Like I'm more interested in that now.
Which I think is more interesting of a tactic of like, well, you got a lot more questions and broader questions than just about who is this person, and more about like what does this mean for how the Force works?
Absolutely,
because that guy uses the Force.
Yeah,
and if he's dead, he can use the Force.
The implications, like you were saying, Brandon, of like this could have just been a random Inquisitor. Like we were watching Rebels, and one guy just like he gets thrown off and he falls off to his death, and we never know his name or anything. And like he looks kind of like that guy, and like he's just a random Inquisitor who got brought back to life, but he also has the Force still? Is the Force okay with that? Like, are we just revitalizing like demons and they can use the Force? Is that okay?
That's a really good question, because they describe the Force as in all living things.
Yes.
Not in
Is there an anti-Force that only the Witches of Dathomir can? Are we doing weird shit? And I'm like, again, this isn't the show. Like, I don't need it to answer it this time.
No.
But you've now given me this idea, and I'm like, that's juicy. I can work with that for a little bit.
Well, though we know that the Force, that the witch is a good point, because when we meet the Witches of Dathomir in the Night Sisters in Rebels, they're all dead, but we see their spectral, ghostly, horrific figures, and we know that Force ghosts can use the Force.
Jedi, the first one, we fight a bunch of like.
But in theory, that is a living thing, even if it is now living within the Force. right?
That's a good
But
point.
we're talking about a reanimated body.
Necromancy.
And
Project
and
Necromancy?
that didn't seem to have any amount of his like essence or self in theory.
Project Necromancy,
So like
guys, I'm just saying.
if he is serving that purpose, is his body just now a conduit that can also use the like? There's just bigger questions that
Palpatine is a clone body
Yeah.
thing, and he uses Force. So there's
That's true.
precedent here. So I'm just like that's what like I'm just saying. Project Necromancy is a thing that like the Shadow Council was talking about in Mando, right? So like
right, but he can use it when he's the living essence inside of it.
yeah,
And also
This
that
is
was
what we need, is
difficult.
like a living essence
That was
that
difficult,
exists
remember?
within.
yeah.
They weren't sure that Palpatine, if he came back as a clone, would be able to use the Force. That's why they wanted Grogu.
That's
Right.
true. That's true.
Anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
Ben's like, Star Wars is weird.
It's weird and I love it. Really, I was just gonna chalk up that guy to be one of the characters who he looks awesome, doesn't do anything for the story.
Yeah, he's a good foil.
The last note I have on this episode is that Hera and Phoenix Squadron show up and they're like, Hu Yang's like, hey, stop this hyperspace ring from leaving. By the way, it looks gorgeous coming out of the clouds. Really interesting, really cool shot. And I really like how it uses when it goes through hyperspace, you can see the ring and it goes and so the Phoenix Squadron goes through the ring going through hyperspace. That was a really cool shot.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
All of that was well visualized. The visuals in the show are really good. I made a note of just like when Morgan's down on the cliff and using the map. I was like, this shit looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clear use of like obviously they're using the volume, but like there's some set stuff too. Like they're on like a rock place with like cool rock things around them. So
But even just the stuff like the visualization of the map that's digital or like the hyperspace reading, like that stuff just looks better than it has in other Star Wars shows.
they're giving it a little
like,
extra
obviously
oomph.
they're giving it a little bit, but like praise be where praise is deserved. Like it looks really like frankly, the map stuff, the hyperspace ring, that looks like Star Wars movie quality to me.
Yeah.
Like that looks just as good as the Star Wars movies. And I didn't feel a dip in that. And like I think we do take a little bit for granted, like when we first made the transition over to Mandalorian on Disney Plus, and we were like, shit looks really good, because up to that point we were always like,
TV.
Can they do Star Wars live action television?
Yeah.
Like, can that happen? And yeah, here we are. And it looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to highlight the emotional crux moment of this episode, which is Hu Yang asking them not to split up when they leave. And it's good because there's this smile between Sabine and Ahsoka. And again, this is the like, I see it, I feel it. I feel this relationship between them before they both go off. And like, obviously the moment he says it, you're like, oh gee, I wonder what's going to happen in this episode. and then Ahsoka's like, I'm not going to fight the stronger apprentice. I'm going to fight the weaker one. Sabine, you take the stronger one. And I'm like, well, Ahsoka's going to leave this fight.
We got to talk about Sabine using the Force.
So, well, we can.
I mean, we're not going to talk about it?
She fakes her out without, it wasn't the Force, right? It was, she just fakes her out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She gets pushed back a little bit, it looked like, though.
No, she braces herself.
She braced for it.
Oh, okay.
And she was like, you have no power.
Oh, okay.
And then Sabine is like,
yeah. No, I remember that part. I guess a lot of people are reading it as like she used a little bit of Force. I'm like, oh, I just read it as that. Okay, yeah. No, that makes sense. Good. I don't want her to use the Force. That's good.
Yeah. I thought that was a very good, like, because it when her hand goes up, I'm like, don't do this.
That's exactly, so
yeah. I was afraid of it. But then she does the Mandalorian armor bit, and I'm like, good job, girl. Good job.
Yeah,
that's real smooth. And it's great because like what I like about it is that Sabine is able to hold her own through this fight, not because she has the Force, but because she's in her Mandalorian armor, and she's in her full, I know my weapons, I know my armor, I know my movement, I know my shit in that way.
Yes.
And she's able to match Shin Hati for that. Like, she could not go toe-to-toe with Baylan, but she can do this, which is really cool.
I 100% agree.
I meant to ask, I'm so curious how Shin and Baylan met.
There's a lot of theories. There's a lot of theories that she's his daughter.
Oh, interesting. I really want to know their story. I hope we get in the season, because we know that he's not coming back in the next season.
I think the best way to do more Baylan, because we know we don't get more Ray Stevenson, is
flashback.
I know I'm not the only person hoping for this, is Tales of the Jedi story.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
the
For
only thing
Balin.
that makes sense, I think. Yeah.
I really like Ray Stevenson's performance as Balin, which I will always praise in every episode he's in. I hope, but there's something very interesting about their relationship. He's not cruel with Shin. He's very understanding with Shin, which kind of takes away the idea that we know this. He's not a Sith. He has gone down a darker path, but he's not a Sith. He's not so he's like very calm with her, especially when she has a lot of rage and is ready to kill Sabine. He says, "Shin, I gave her my word. We're not going to do this."
Right. See, you say he's gone down a darker path, and I question how true that is.
Interesting.
Because is he really any different from Ahsoka, walking away from the Jedi?
Well,
I mean,
Like, really? No, I understand what he's doing,
He's helping
but
bad
is he
people.
using the dark side to do it?
Oh no, but
This is what I mean.
But he's
like
he is an antagonist.
he's an antagonist for sure.
Yeah.
Like, and he's done like his mercenary things, but like, is his relationship with the Force one on the dark
Oh,
side
no.
or the light?
He's still more Jedi than Ahsoka is. He's
That's-
really honorable and stuff like that.
But
like,
he's still
I'm-
using his Jedi skills to kill because he's a mercenary. He is,
Yep.
which he's killing potentially innocents or bad people who we don't know what his mercenary
He
life
killed that
is.
whole ship and people in the first episode. Yeah.
Right.
He is still on a dark path. I don't think what I said was any.
I know what you're all saying. I'm questioning. It's an ideological thing. Is this? There's no right answer. Is his relationship with the Force one where he is still completely in communication with the light side, not the dark?
Oh yeah.
Like, even as
Yeah.
he's able to do these things, because the morality of the Force, right, as it exists,
He's
and
not
as
using lightning.
as it's
He's
in,
not dark
as
side
it's in a
coded.
balance, right? I just like that he's muddying it up, which
Yeah.
I think is the same thing that Ahsoka was doing, right? By leaving the Jedi Order and forging her own path. He in a similar way, and this is again like we're going back to a similar conversation about parallels. Like while we talked about like a Darth Vader apprentice, like Balin is just Ahsoka with different motivations.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm.
and just forging a path away. And like, yes, he's willing to, like, I'm not championing that he's a good guy or anything. I'm just saying like that his relationship with the Force gets to stay on the other side. Whereas I think Shin is leaning towards the dark side.
Yes.
But
Sure.
Balin, I don't think is. I don't think Balin actually is communing with the dark side much at all. Which is really interesting when you think about him in comparison to someone like Count Dooku,
Mhm.
right? Who, like, he left the Jedi and he went full blown, I'm engaging with the dark side. This is the power I choose now.
Dooku wishes
And
he
this
was
is
like
not
Balin.
what Balin seems to be. Balin seems to be really at peace with who he is and what his relationship and place inside of the Force is,
Mhm.
even as he's doing what he's doing, which also translates, I think, to the choice of an orange saber, not a red saber.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know where this goes. I really want to see this character continue, and I hope we get whatever his full story is in this season, even though it's looking more and more unlikely as the show goes on.
Yeah, me too. It's really tough that Ray Stevenson passed. It's such a shame because he's truly killing it. He's such a presence,
Mhm.
Mhm.
especially in his just literal physical presence in that armor and everything. He's so engaging. So I do, just because he has passed, I hope that his whole character got his arc for this show in one season. And then we can tell more story with Shin later.
Yeah.
But you can always tell more story with him before this, and that's where, again, like, I think Tales of the Jedi is a perfect conduit for that. You do like 3 mini chapters through different points
How'd
of
he
his
get
life
here?
of how he ended up to this point, and
Yeah.
I think that could be really incredible.
Absolutely.
So Sabine gets taken and is going to another galaxy.
Matt gets to show
That
it.
is a very simplistic way of talking about what Sabine did there.
I know. I did it on purpose. Yeah. Sabine's actions. I knew she was going to do this. Like, I knew she
was
wants
the
to find
only-
Ezra so badly, and she knows that this is the only way to do it.
Well, I mean, like, and from like a storytelling point, you're like, well, she either does this or she's dead. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
100%.
Bye, Sabine.
Yeah, I think there's many have made the comparison of this as her Anakin Skywalker moment.
Oh, interesting.
The same of like betraying Mace Windu for Palpatine
Sure.
and the choice she's making. And I don't think it's quite that.
It's definitely not that severe.
Everyone's like, everything that's about to happen with Thrawn and everything that's now on her. Like she gave them the way, and I'm like, they would have had it anyway.
They would
Like,
have had it anyway.
This is not like, question her choice all you want. I think it's more interesting and true to the character, because others have tried to say this is a Sabine character assassination. I just don't think so. I don't think this comes out of nowhere. I think this comes from a very deep place, especially like when you put it in, again, it's in that same conversation, right, that you brought up earlier, Brandon, where Balin is putting this on her, and he's pulling the strings because he understands. But I think, again, he's using the light side of the Force, I think, to do this, and he's connecting with her, not in a malicious and sinister dark side way, but in a way where he's like, I sense what you've already lost, which is your family, and what you're missing is Ezra. I can want to help you get to Ezra, and I promise you will. So let's do that together. And that's the thing that I think is really good about it, because, like, put into that context, all of her sadness about Ezra gets so much larger than just Ezra isn't here. It's that I lost so much else, and also Ezra. And Ezra is still someone I might be able to get back.
That is an attainable goal I can get.
Right. Yeah. And that's a very different perspective than like where you start the show at, which is just, I miss Ezra. And
he's in sight right now.
Right. And turns it into this like compiled of like, I've had so much taken from me. This is a thing I can get back. Which I think makes the choice very relatable, very like, sure, in a objective third person way, we're all like, this is the bad thing, but like, also, is it?
I don't think I would have done. I don't think I could have done something different. I don't think that if I were in Sabine's shoes, that I could have pulled the trigger. I just don't think it's possible.
No, I'd turn over the map to find any of you.
Yeah. The end of the episode, we get a hello Snips from none other than Hayden Christensen.
Hold on, I don't know if I want to go there quite yet. Hold on.
I'm ready to go into the next episode.
Hold on. Oh, Balin destroying that map with the saber. That's sick.
That's very cool.
That looks sick. And then I thought this was really good. We didn't really talk about this being the quandary, and like where obviously we just reference it ends up with Sabine, but like at the beginning of the episode, Ahsoka says to Sabine, if we can't get to Ezra, maybe nobody should.
Oh yeah. That's a responsible thing.
That certainly sounds like absolutes to me.
But no, only Sith deal those.
Yeah, right. I mean, you know, that line is hypocrisy itself, but that is like the template of how the episode starts, you know, our full arc for this one of Ahsoka putting that on Sabine, and Sabine ultimately having that choice. And I think the moment Ahsoka says that, you know, like Ahsoka's kind of in the wrong on it, you know, like it's very without hope.
Yeah.
And framing Ahsoka in that way, which I think is with purpose. Just then you get to the end, and Sabine's choice really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Shall we go to the next episode?
Yeah, I just wanted to cover some of that.
All right, so written and directed by Dave Filoni. This is Shadow Warrior episode 5. I want to start the discussion because Hu Yang breaks my heart in the beginning of this episode, which is I told them to stay together. And he's holding Sabine's helmet, and I was like, oh shit. And this is where I'm going to throw some praise on
his little droop eye animation. Yeah.
This is where I'm going to put some praise on David Tennant once again, an actor I will praise at any given moment, at any given opportunity I will have. Even as a voice actor, he can break your heart. He is an incredible get for the show, and I'm so happy he's here, even as a droid.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, love him.
Where do we want to start with this episode? Otherwise, though, do we want to start with the Ahsoka and Anakin stuff?
I mean, you kind of have to, because like everything else is like reactionary to it. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, Anakin looks incredible.
I think so too. I thought he looked pretty good. I was not distracted by his de-aging at all. I don't want to get too much into this, but I don't think this is the world between worlds. I think this is just the Force.
No, I do want to get into it. Sorry.
You can, but I'm going to check out. I've said my piece. I'm done.
I think the world between worlds is just more than we thought it was. I just don't. And I'm very much in a camp, and I was thinking this already. If you've listened to the latest House of R, then you know that they think the same thing, which is that I think the world between worlds is just a conduit space of the Force in whole, and I don't think it's as cut and dry as that one portal in Rebels made us feel like it was. So I think that any time of like, we'll use another example within Rebels when Ezra goes into the Jedi Temple and he communes to Yoda. I think that is also technically the world between worlds. I think that is also part of how the Force is connected. I think that thing as a whole is the connection of the Force across space and time, and how it connects to all beings. And so there are so many different ways to channel into it. And I think you can, House of R, to their credit, made this analogy, and I think it was very apt. I think it works like the spirit realm in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I agree about this. You can physically go to places that allow you to walk into the spirit realm, but you can also meditate into the spirit realm. And I think that this works the same, that it is more complex and more diverse than the kind of straight answer idea that we maybe had at the end of Rebels. And I think that's part of why the visual language of it is so clearly hearkening back to that, is because like it is this same kind of space.
Ben, because you're newest to watching Rebels and the WBWs of it all. What do you think about this whole just the concept? Like, did it work with you? Did it not work with you? Did you need more explain? Were you confused? Like, I'm very curious because like I don't care. I just experienced a cool thing. If I think about it too much, like considering we saw it once and then, hey, I'm going to change it in the next way that I do it. Like I can't think about it too hard or I'll lose my mind. So I'm just curious. I liked it because I didn't think about it too hard. What did you think about it?
The second I saw Hayden Christensen pop up at the end of episode 4, I jumped for joy.
Sure.
The second I heard the hello snips and I knew the next episode and all the stuff we got, I absolutely loved it. I think I'm more on the same boat with you, Ryan. I was there for a ride. I was there to experience what was happening, like seeing Ahsoka go through the flashback. I absolutely loved her flashbacks through the Clone Wars.
Don't get too deep into it. We're just
I'm just asking world between world stuff. Like, did you find it confusing? Did you need it explained? What did you think it was that we were like watching? Like, what do you think is happening during this moment?
I thought the way I saw it, I was just like, it's just Jedi Star Wars magic space wizard shit.
Like, is she dead? Is she in the Force? Like, what? Like, or are you just like whatever?
I was very much just like whatever.
Okay,
strap me in. I'm on this ride. Let's go. That's pretty much the second she woke up in the world between worlds. I'm like, I don't care how she got there. I don't care what the implications are. I'm just here for this ride.
Okay, yeah,
right.
I do not want. He can use the world between worlds or whatever it says as much as he wants. He cannot explain it ever. He can never explain it because like it is such a huge concept for what Star Wars is trying to do as this like fantasy fun thing. Where like I like the idea, but you cannot. Shouldn't have to listen to a 3-hour House of R episode to understand what's going on. Like it's just too big for the simple fun thing of like we're in the Force. Let's just say we're in the Force. Just let's decomplicate it. We're in the Force.
Well, that's my point. Is I think that's the purpose of doing it this way in this episode. Is that he wanted to walk it back from feeling like it is this singular identity that people had from Rebels.
Yeah,
and I think he wanted to broaden it out to be like it's the Force. Just it's part of the Force, and it's how it works whenever
I almost wish
to see it in
this was the first time we've seen this, because just going off online stuff again, like it's I this can wash over me, it's not a big deal to me.
Sure.
But people like the episode, but there's like, what's going on with this thing? I don't get it. Am I supposed is it the afterlife? What is it? And I'm just like, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. Because she's not dead. But Anakin's also there. So like I don't know. I just don't know. But in terms of the content that we got, the quality of it, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the emotion behind it was great. All that stuff that we'll get into. I think everything we got was great. I just the way we got it, I'm still curious about why he loves this idea so much.
I'm gonna say a little something on it. And then unless Sparkz has anything to say on it, I want to move on. But I think Anakin, as we saw him in Return of the Jedi, this is Anakin post Return of the Jedi. He shows up as a Force ghost to Ahsoka, who is dying, and he takes her into the Force to teach her, to train her, to give her a second chance. And that's what this is. That's why I don't think it's the world between worlds, because Filoni has explained it. He has explained it explicitly what the world between worlds is, and he can change his mind. Doesn't matter. But this is why I lean on this was just a Force vision, or they were in the Force, or this didn't really happen. That's kind of where I fall on it.
Yeah.
Sparkz, do you have anything you want to add?
My only other comment that is like, I think that they are truly in, obviously within the presence of the Force and in a state of a location of something, that I would contest is just the same as the world between worlds, because you don't use the same visual language unless it is, and that is manifested within this meditative state because. Specifically because, and it's a good moment, and we'll highlight it here, which Jason hears the lightsabers, within the Force. So it's definitely a place within the Force, and it exists, and Jason is connecting to it, which I also thought was brilliant. The way of the waves crashing and hearing the sabers mix in with that, and all the more to the point of like Hera hearing it too. And I think it was very reminiscent of The Last Jedi, when Luke has Rey listen to everything, and she hears the waves, and she hears the light and the dark, and she hears the balance.
Yeah,
and I think that's very much in tone with that of like, this is at the center of the balance.
You brought up The Last Jedi. I really like the moment where Hera can commune or hear something that's happening in the Force. She's not a Force user. We
Connect
know
to
this.
it.
She can connect to it. I will never be able to explain to you guys in a way that will not make me extremely frustrated by the end of the episode why I like the idea of Sabine using the Force later on in the episode, later on in the series. But this was the closest evidence I had to this is what I want the Force to be, not something that is exclusively used by Jedi. It is something that everyone can tap into and can access, which felt very Last Jedi to myself. And that's honestly gonna have to be it before I start getting frustrated.
I agree with you 100%.
If I may, really just like a one side tangent, or really just a tangent, because like earlier when I was talking to Ryan, when I was telling Ryan about how like when Ahsoka wakes up in like the air quotes world between worlds, I'm just here for, at this point, I don't want it explained. I don't care to explain it, because this is a show in a universe where magic space wizards exist, and I just have to deal with it. Honestly, there are times like I love Carson's reaction, like when he's talking to Hu Yang, is like, "Why are we doing a sweep? We did this," and then when Hu Yang tells us like, "No, Jason's dad was Kanan Jarrus. He was a Jedi," and Carson's like, "Okay, just
love it.
I don't watch cartoons."
He just like says, "F it, all right," because he knows that Jedi stuff is like too hard to explain. It's either it's one of those things like if you're with it, you're with it. If you need to explain, you're not going to understand it. He just goes, "Okay, fine. I'm just going to go what the general says. I'm just going to do my job."
Okay.
I do want to add to the thing that Ryan, you do disagree with me. We had a whole discussion about it last time.
No,
you do disagree with me. So like that's why I don't want to get into it, because it would trigger a fight and there would be a whole thing, and
that's the thing. It wouldn't be a fight. It would just be a fun discussion, but we're not going to talk about it.
Disagree on the funness of that discussion.
I love to have fun conversations, disagreeing with friends, but we will move on. It is a lovely moment with Hera. I do agree that everyone being in tune with the Force makes sense. I just don't want everyone to start pushing things around. But I do like that moment a lot. Both of them connecting, or the father and daughter, daughter and stuff, son. It's all lovely stuff.
I'm going to say something about, because I wanted to say it before Ben changed the subject. I'm going to say that it's the thing that it always should be, which is that like Obi-Wan says in the beginning that like the Force is in everyone.
Yeah.
And the Force goes through all beings. So everyone should be able to connect to the Force to an extent. So I really like Hera being able to like, if you do this in this moment, if you try and I'm guiding you, you're gonna get a bit of it, and she gets a bit of it, and I thought that was great.
100%.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were going to go
No,
a little
it's
bit
fine.
longer.
No, we don't always need you to lead.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to say about Jason. Jason is such an interesting character right now for me that I would like to see. I'm kind of bummed he's not. They don't come with him. This is kind of later on the episode. I'm kind of bummed that Hera and Jason don't go with them because I want to see more. Specifically, I want them to like dive more into Jason a little bit.
I agree.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm saying, like, I agree, but like to Ben's point earlier, like this has to be the Ahsoka show. It can't be the Rebel show as much as I think we all want it to be. Like, I 100% agree. I fully suspect Jason is going to be a pretty prominent character for the rest of our futures in Star Wars. He'll growing up, maybe joining the temple, then maybe gets to join Luke, it's all that stuff. But like, unfortunately, like I agree. I want this to be Rebel season 5, but like I think they had to do a hard cut of like we do have to focus on Ahsoka at some point.
That's why Zeb's not in this. Well, that's why Zeb's not in this. And go ahead.
I like how it's kind of become a reverse of like who else survived Order 66 and then like who else dies at Luke's temple.
Yeah.
How many Jedi children go there?
It does kind of seem like Hera doesn't want Jason to train as a Jedi. Because he's fascinated by Jedi stuff, but he's not. Hu Yang like shoots it down like, no, I'm not going to train you. No, we're not going to talk about the Force. I'm just going to show you some shit, and we're going to
lightsaber building.
No lightsaber building. And so I do wonder if perhaps Hera not wanting Jason to go down his father's path is just kind of like, I accept that you can use the Force, but you will never train as a Jedi.
I think it actually might have far more to do with the fact that whoever it was wouldn't be able to be Kanan. And what I mean by that in the sense of Kanan was there all the time on the ship when he was training Ezra.
Oh, sure.
They were a family together. If any of the Jedi who would train Jason right now wanted to train Jason, they would take him from Hera.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and I don't think that, I think that's the thing Hera doesn't want.
Yeah.
Hera doesn't want Jason.
Keep it on the Ghost.
And I think there's an extent of like, Hera's a good mom. I think there's just an extent of Hera's a good mom and wants to raise her son. And like I have no doubt that when Jason is like in his late teens, if he says, I want to go learn how to communicate with the Force more with Ahsoka, Hera would be like 100%.
When he's an adult.
Like go for it. But I think she wants to give him a childhood. I think she wants to give him love before he is put into that place.
What if Ezra becomes his master?
There's a very much a possibility that could happen.
Yeah, just one of that.
And again, like something where it would stay if he's young. I think all it is that Hera wants him close while he's young, and she's not willing to like separate from him right now. And I think that makes sense. That is a big question mark on the way that the Jedi did things, that they took them from their families when they were children. Like that's a big woo. That's not great. So I think it has a lot to do with that. More than it is like a fear of him engaging with the Force, or I think she loves that he can connect to the Force. I think it reminds her of Kanan. I think it's not a fear about him being a Jedi or anything like that any more than like a natural parent's fear of like the dangers in the world, as much as it is, I don't want you going away right now.
Yeah, go hang out with Luke and a frog.
We get a nice call out to Senator Organa. That was nice. Appreciated that.
Yeah. I'm glad we get a name drop. It's so necessary.
Yeah.
Like if you're not going to show her, we just need to know she's at least like. But again, like you put her in context with this group, which means she's communicating with this group and on their side, and it's like, so when does she show up? Question mark. That's tough.
So we get something I've wanted since Obi-Wan, which
real quick. I know where you're heading, and I think before we go there, I do want to just kind of close a loop on Jason and Hera. They're in this episode a little too much. Okay. I will say, like, in terms of pacing of the episode, it was too many times where I was like,
we do cut to them a lot.
You made me you presented something that made it so when you cut away to Jason and Hera, I went, no, I do just want to stay with Anakin and Ahsoka. Stop it. And I think like outside of the lightsaber waves crashing, like once he says like do the search again, we shouldn't have seen them again until the moment they're pulling her out of the water.
Sure.
I don't think it was necessary.
I was only going to say that I like the moment where Chopper tells him to go lower because I just think it's funny. But you're right. You're right. You're not wrong about that at all.
It's funny and it's cute, and this is me going to a larger point of this episode's a pretty good length. I don't mean to sound ungrateful for what we get. I think there could have been a little bit more time with Anakin and Ahsoka.
Sure. Yeah.
If you look behind the scenes stuff, by the way, I really want to highlight this. It's not in the volume, which I thought it was. That they're using a light bridge, a physical light bridge, and a green screen. I'm just and for whatever reason, like I just wanted to shout that out as just being nice. It looked better than a giant circle that you can kind of feel around them. It looked better than that.
I do agree. It did not look like a volume. It did look like a giant set where it was really foggy.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about that set. I'm talking about the
just where they are in the picture behind us.
Oh, got it. Oh, sure. Oh, no, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, yeah, that looks great.
That's not the volume. It is a light bridge with green screens around it, and somehow it makes it feel very very big and very open. There's a sense of scale to it that you get that you just don't really get with the volume that I appreciated.
That's just regular filmmaking.
If I may, more importantly than anything, I think is having the physical light bridge create such a presence of the lights with the lightsabers when they're in that space.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Anakin is in his Clone Wars armor.
Oh, we're going there. Got it.
I don't know where else to go. If you want to go somewhere else, take me there. I do not know where to go.
The Anakin and Ahsoka stuff I kind of want to talk about in beats. So I want to talk about before they drop into the Clone Wars memory.
All right, then do that.
So when he presents the choice of
live
or die and says, you lost this fight. And I think to the credit of Dawson, I think I really get the complicated feeling of seeing Anakin again. When they're on that light bridge before this, specifically, I wanted to highlight the excellent exchange of "I won't fight you." I've heard that before, which is really great.
My son told me that.
I really like the choreography just in general between Anakin and Ahsoka. I think it looks really solid. Hayden Christensen just knows how to work a lightsaber, man. He just constantly I love when he does the twirl behind his back.
We know for a fact that there's a lot of de-aging going on for Hayden in this.
Well, there's more than there was in Obi-Wan, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. In Obi-Wan, he was just barely.
We know it's not more makeup than it is.
It's definitely de-aged. Yeah. He's got a lot of wrinkles. Sure. He looks great for his age, but yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Look, the thing is, I
saw one behind-the-scenes video of them together.
I'm more impressed by what is possible with de-aging makeup since we watched Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah.
Sidebar: they do some incredible John Goodman, younging him down look. With makeup. That is cool. Pretty impressive.
It's exceptional. And this is probably for me. This is probably the best de-aging that we've done, but mostly because the age gap is not significant.
No, it's not
Indiana
huge.
Jones. It's like 20 years instead of like 50 years.
That's I think a big part of it is that I think that you're doing so much less work.
Yeah.
And like this kind of de-aging, I guess I have less of a problem with because like I think it's just cleaning things up to make it look a few years ago, not like necessarily turning an 80-year-old into a 30-year-old.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm gonna back up for a minute so you guys keep going. I need to.
You got it, dude.
I'm to just jump on the de-aging bit for a hot second. I honestly didn't notice it. I don't know if that's just because I just wasn't paying attention, or to me it was just Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. I mean, maybe they touched him up on wrinkles here and there. Really, I'm just so happy to see him again as Anakin. Even though as we're not, there's like not a whole lot of him because look, the fact that he came back for Obi-Wan, obviously everyone lost their mind. We were so happy because he, after Star Wars, and Jumper, he kind of left acting for a while. He did his own thing. Good for him. But the fact that he's just so, I can sense that he is just so comfortable in his role as Anakin. It just makes me so happy because I can tell that he is having the time of his life on playing both Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader before the suit. I was just full, like the whole sequence, like all the beats of Ahsoka and Anakin in the Clone Wars, fighting in the worlds between, seeing Anakin's eyes go from regular to Sith to regular again. The whole experience, I was just in awe. I was like, this is what I was waiting for Ahsoka to do. Part of me was wanting some sort of closure between her and Anakin. I mean, yes, we got a form of it in Rebels where she fought Vader and she realizes that her master became the most evil man in the galaxy. But she didn't have that with Anakin. And the fact that she's having this form of closure with him, just, I don't know, it just makes my little nerd heart jump for joy. I honestly don't have a whole lot of stuff to say about it. It's just except for the fact that I absolutely loved it. I mean, for me, this was like the whole point of, like, it wasn't like obviously the spearhead, because we have more stuff and I'm so looking forward to that more stuff. But I'm just like, I care about Ahsoka and Anakin because I know in the Clone Wars they had such a strong bond and all the stuff and the drama that happened between them, and it hurt both of them to a point. And just seeing this again, and I was just like, bravo, Filoni, you did it.
Because it's not just the visuals are cool, but if it was just the visuals, I wouldn't care.
Right.
It has to have substance. I don't care. Wow, live action Clone Wars, cool. CGI is cool. We live in 2023. I need to have substance there for this to matter. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Ahsoka's guilt about Anakin, about the way that she's gone about raising her own Padawan, her fear about it. All that is coming to head. And again, I wish this whole episode could have just been all this, because it was really juicy. It was really great. It is Anakin Skywalker. Again, after everything he's done, coming back to talk to his homie, like, yo, why are you going through this? What are you doing? This isn't about me. This is about you. What's going on? Like, live your own life. Like, I had nothing to do with you. I know you think like I'm your fault and all this. Bro, relax. Live your life. And that's so beautiful. Of course, I had to fight a lot to get it because it's Star Wars, but it's lovely. And like the substance, the juice was there. Like Hayden Christensen is great. Like there's no phone in it. This guy, like you said, clearly loves it. That's the stuff that I really cared about. This could have been an entire, finale of Loki of just people talking. But we got that, and we got Clone Wars stuff. So it really was an incredible episode all around.
He's trying to absolve Ahsoka of fault in a way because he doesn't believe that Anakin's apprentice should feel responsible for Darth Vader. There is like that, and I actually really like that idea that in a way he's trying to just be like, you were not Darth Vader's apprentice, you were mine. I am Anakin Skywalker, you were Anakin Skywalker's apprentice, and that is not what I taught you.
Well, it's that, and I think it's also the my fate is not your fate. What happened to me doesn't mean it happens to you. And like I really like it because like for me, this is the thing that made me, and I want to clarify with what I'm about to say. For Return of the Jedi, I've never ever particularly loved that Anakin shows up as a Force ghost at the end. And it's not just like the Hayden Christensen thing, it's just in general. I've never been crazy about it because it seems easy. Like for who Darth Vader was, oh, you get the gift of Force heaven. At the time, like just kind of interpreted Force heaven, and then more complicated as that goes. But you get this. Here you go. Here's your you are in balance with the Force. And what this does for me is it makes it feel far more what I'm interested in. And I while I loved the idea of what they were talking about doing for Force Awakens, we talked about before of like the Vader and Anakin's ghosts in conflict with each other in the Force. I like this more, which is more about Anakin here. Hayden Christensen's doing a great job. He is truly all of himself, both Vader and Anakin. He is all of his life he has lived up to this point, and all of that wisdom and all of that knowledge now existing within the Force. And having been such a powerful connection to the Force that when he was alive, it makes sense that when he passes, he is truly connecting to balance within the Force, and he is truly very powerful in the Force. And he reminds me a lot of Bendu in the Rebels, which is far more about like I'm not really advocating light or dark. I am really truly connecting to what is balance within the Force now, which is why he's able to hold I have been Anakin and I have been Darth Vader in the Force and kind of be of a piece of like I represent all these things and they are all here.
Yeah. I love that the entire conversation, that it's not just young plucky Anakin. He's kind of brash. Like he is the culmination of every person he's been, now. Like this is like, like 7-year-old Anakin, like, yo, I was kind of a badass, wasn't I? I'm gonna act like it on the battlefield while I was also 19 years old. Like it is really cool to see, like, him taking the form of young person while being old person. Like it was really well done.
Well, I think to me, there's a lot I love here, but my favorite line of all of it, the most important line I think of the episode, is when Anakin says, you are, this is not all of who you are, because this is not all of who I am. All of this that you're focusing on,
you're not just war.
Yeah, I wish I remembered the exact words, but he says, like, that's not all of you, because this is not all of me. And what you've looked at as Vader is not all of me. And I am more than that, and so you're more than that too. And that's really, I think, the defining thing about the episode that I gravitate towards so much is this idea of, like, hold both of me and all of me in one. Yeah. Embrace that I have been all of these things. Yeah. And not just one of these things. And I think that's really,
we are what they grow beyond.
Yes. That sentiment is absolutely here as well. And I think for the definitional central character of the main Star Wars saga to have this idea about the arc of Anakin and the arc of Darth Vader, and finally feeling like those two separate identities of himself are existing here in one moment. And it's one of the reasons I think it's so smart to have him only see flashes of the Darth Vader suit, but we're seeing who was in the suit. Yeah. Like he is, when he's got his Sith eyes and everything, it's not just before he put on the suit. That's him as Darth Vader. That's who he was. But that is part of him. And both of these things are part of him, and both of the things exist in the balance of the Force, which I think is really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, can I say the thing I like?
Yeah.
Seeing Anakin in that outfit, specifically his early Clone Wars outfit, just really cool. I was really happy about it. This is also the first time we see physical Mark I clone armors. We've never seen them before. Once again, all clone trooper armor was always CGI or animated. It was never physical. And so we saw in Mandalorian physical Mark II armor, which we get here also, but this is the first time we see physical Mark I armor. That's just really nice. A little nice attention to detail that I quite liked.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm really glad about them seeing Anakin. Hayden Christensen has watched Clone Wars, and I feel like I think that makes a difference. Sure. I feel like he, especially when he's doing the flashback stuff and he's in the battle armor, I feel like he's channeling that version of Anakin, this version he was never allowed to be.
Matt Lanter
in the movies, the Matt Lanter voice, the Matt Lanter mannerisms, the bravado and heroism that exists for Anakin in the show that he never got to play.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special. Also, his hair looks great. They did such a good job getting the young haircut.
It's a great wig.
It's a great wig.
It's a great wig.
Ariana Greenblatt plays young Ahsoka.
Yes.
She's quite good in the role. I really like her. I wanted to highlight something in where she says, where Anakin says to her, when Obi-Wan trained me, we were defenders of the peace. When I trained you, we were warriors. I had to train you to be a warrior. I really like that, leaning into this idea that at this point Padawans were child soldiers, and what would that do to Padawans at this point, who all died at the end of the Clone Wars, but some of them survived, and what that trauma did to them, and how Ahsoka has to really like wrestle with the fact that Anakin wasn't trying to teach her to be a warrior. He was trying to teach her to be a Jedi. It's just she needed to be a Jedi during wartime. And Ahsoka in this whole series, I never got to finish my training. Anakin never finished my training. Been her like, what would that that kind of, she's put that on herself, that she's not a completed Jedi essentially, because she walked away from Anakin. And Anakin's like, I'll complete your training in the Force, but you always had it. This was always, You were never supposed to take the trauma of the Clone Wars with you.
Yeah.
I,
The thing-
I quite like that.
The thing that like everything we've talked about I love, but honestly the thing that like I really resonated with that like this like we watch Clone Wars where Padawans are on the battlefield and they're fighting like it's nothing. Like these are and like a bunch of teenagers are fighting like it's nothing. Like, you know, it is a cartoon, you know, it's like, you know, you don't think about how violent it actually is. When you're watching this, that is a teenage girl on a battlefield, and it really feels like it. And like putting that in the context of like all of the Clone Wars, I'm like, oh, they need to make a live action Clone Wars. Like, I don't need that. But like now that I have this, that puts it in context like everything the Jedi have ever done, and this like with like the lens of like, oh wow, this whole thing is rotten, totally rotten. You just maybe you don't need to go down by the Empire, but y'all need to go for sure. And it was really like traumatizing. Like, see this little girl, it's like clone styling her all around her. Her master's like, all right, let's go. He deflects a blaster bolt back at her by accident. Hilarious, great moment. You should check that gif out. It's really great. It's incredible.
Which is very much like, and it's a heavy point of the Clone Wars. I'm not saying anything new, but like the idea of the powers that were at the top on both sides of the war were like, this is meaningless because it's the life of droids and the life of clones.
Yeah.
So there's really not a lot you should be traumatic about in it, and like, and occasionally a Jedi would die, and that's like kind of the mind space that you would see make it okay to put them in this situation.
Yeah.
But that implies these characters who you watch the Clone Wars, you know it's not true, not caring about the clones. And it is one of those things where like, I don't know, like Yoda kind of doesn't always work for me in this context, only because like, I don't want to spin off on this tangent too hard, but just because like Yoda does recognize the clones as individuals and beings of life, and I'm like, bro, you're the leader of the council. Why are you okay with this?
I think Yoda is like 25% conservative because he's 900 years old. Someone's got to be old.
You need like 4 of the other guys on the council besides him and Mace who were like the ones who really were pushing like, no, we got to go to war. like
We're the liberals.
You need like 4 of those guys really hammering home. Like Kiadi Mundi was like got his dick out for war. Like he's
that dude's got like 8 wives. He's happy.
Really, really big on it. Yeah, there's something so special, like you were referencing earlier, Brandon, like live action should be needed for validation, but what is special about doing something like this and putting it in live action is really contextualizing and making everyone feel like, so this is Ahsoka. She was 14 years old when she became Anakin's Padawan in the Clone Wars, and it's like, oh.
There's just something like, again, seeing Anakin and Ahsoka in Clone Wars, and then seeing them in live action, I'm like, oh my god, that's a little girl.
Yeah,
that's a little girl, dude. And it's just like, it really does put in perspective of like, man, like this is all wrong. This is so bad. Ahsoka, you turned out great, dude. You turned out so good.
There's a nice beat that I liked when Ahsoka, when the battle is cleared and they're doing triage on the clones, and Ahsoka is holding the hand of a clone trooper. I just think that's such a beautiful moment, such a quiet, small moment that I just wanted to highlight as being very good.
Oh yeah,
I'm really grateful for it. A lot of people have debated about whether we're seeing 3 memories or two. There's a musical cue when Ahsoka first lands in the Clone Wars thing, and the clones are coming, and Anakin is there, and she says, "This is the Clone Wars," and he's like, "No shit." And the musical cue is the exact musical cue from when she first shows up in the Star Wars film. The Clone Wars Star Wars film.
Yeah.
And that implies that it is Teth. Whereas when they go forward, and as you have alluded to, Brandon, the dust clears and there's the clones that are injured, and she says, "This was my fault. They were following my orders." That is very clearly the Battle of Ryloth from the end of season 1, where Ahsoka's first given command of her clones, and she gets a lot of them killed.
Ryloth.
And the color palette of the smoke changes to kind of evoke that planet's aesthetic. So that does make me think that we're seeing very quickly like her first connection to Anakin moment, at least alluded to, and then prominently Ryloth.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see the Siege of Mandalore.
Right. And but in that moment, you know, Anakin has this like she's trying to size up all of who he was and all of what he meant to her, as she criticizes him for like being too jokey on the battlefield. He's like, "You want me to be more serious about this?" And I don't want to brush over the very cool Anakin walking through the fog shot, and then her seeing the flash of Darth Vader walking into battle, and then back to Anakin.
even Ahsoka has a line that says, "You are more powerful and dangerous than anyone realized."
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
But you
and that's
still
how
on
she
about that?
and that's how she sees him now. After years
Right.
of hindsight, having faced Vader, she's like, we we should have stopped you earlier. Almost like she has this moment like no one realized how dangerous you were going to be.
Yeah, and he very much I love his response of just like, is that what this is all about? Like you're not paying attention to anything. You're not learning anything.
Are you still
All
mad
right,
about me being
back-
Darth Vader?
Back to the beginning. But it is the contextualization of he's like you're focusing on the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like you're missing the whole point of what we're doing here. I
really love seeing. Hold on, I got to do my best Captain Rex impression. Like, Mom said it's my turn for the Xbox. I'm here, baby.
It's nice that it was Tamora Morrison's voice coming out of there. That was cute. Probably the closest we'll get to a Tamora Morrison Captain Rex in the show so far.
They couldn't get him for one day, man.
I do believe he's showing up in this show. I don't know if it'll be this season.
Yeah,
I don't think it'll be this season either, but I do think we're gonna see Tamora. I don't think they're gonna hold back on that. I think we're gonna get Tamora Morrison at some point. Old gray beard, and he's gonna be like, "I was there on the forest moon of Endor. I'm canon.
I'm that guy. That guy."
Right. I did want to highlight before we talk just a little bit more about the Siege of Mandalore scene that even obviously they're doing the fog to cover budgetary reasons to not show the planets and the battles and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they had the budget, I wouldn't want to see it that way.
Yeah,
personally, like I like this better. I think if you had the full, like if it just looked like it did in Clone Wars live action, I think you lose the focus on the emotion of what's going on and the characters. Yeah. And I think that this provides the perfect conduit of being inside the Force, this kind of Force therapy to
Force
have that.
therapy.
And like honestly, like the fog of war is just a common phrase. And so like just creating that as a metaphor within this, I also think is great. Is just like this, you are lost in the fog of war.
Yeah.
And also,
go ahead.
I was going to say it also helps with like the whole flashback thing where Ahsoka is only focusing on like a few things, like, or a few key characters and moments, be it Anakin rushing into battle and her memory's a little hazy. I just think the whole fog of war thing and like the whole flashback thing, I think it just works the way it does.
Yeah.
Personally, I didn't love it. I think it's a little too much. I would have liked them to have dialed it down a little bit.
I think it's just like when it's like the third memory and it still kind of looks like they're just a little different. I'm like, oh, I know, I get it. I know I see the budgetary thing, but like I think it's a good. I'd rather be that than I think what you said. I think would rather look like that than we're just in the Clone Wars live action.
I'm into the idea. Yeah. I love the idea. I love the fog of war. What Ben was saying, its memories are hazy. It's just when it's so foggy on our two main characters. It's a personal thing. It's just too much for me. I don't mind the background being hazy and foggy, but when we're still in the fog with our two main characters, it's just a little hard for me.
Sure.
I would have liked it to have been turned down just a bit on them specifically.
No, I wouldn't dispute that. I think that would be fine, especially in the Mandalore scene. To be honest, I think the Mandalore one in particular is the one where the fog's a little thick between them specifically, which I do think is supposed to be like it comes in even more as Anakin ignites the red and is pushing her. But like, yeah, I think I'd agree with that. We get our Death Watch Darth Maul boys.
That's what I popped.
Oh man,
I definitely popped for that one.
Yeah, that was good.
I love those helmets. I love
nice practical use of that. Again, first time practically.
So I'm okay with being the odd man out, and maybe it makes sense because like it's such a short appearance. Does it really matter? Me personally, I would have preferred a different actor for the Siege of Mandalore for Ahsoka, a slightly older one, because it's a lot of time, and I outside of like the cosmetic differences of like they do her longer top headpieces and things like that as she's supposed to, and she's obviously an outfit. And I know the Siege of Mandalore, I don't feel like it properly conveys the amount of time they were in the war and how much she aged
Oh,
from the beginning to the end of
that's
the war.
Sure.
And I would have gone for an actor maybe 5 years older for that secondary appearance. I would have had 2 different young Ahsoka actors just to convey like the wars were long.
Or to put her in like
and
big
she
boots.
and she grew a lot.
Yeah.
That's me.
No, that's a good point. I don't think that would be good for continuity's sake. It's like yeah, this is a years long war instead of like, oh, it's been 6 months.
I think even for people who aren't familiar with Clone Wars, like it contextualizes like, hey, when she started, she was this young.
Yeah.
This is near the end. This is how old she was, and it was still going. And it's like that's big. She matures a lot over the course of the Clone Wars, and I feel like they could have hit that a little bit harder, especially teenagers. Like how different you are between 14 and 19 is a big difference.
It's true. They want to save on the budget.
That's it's a small scene, so like I get it. That and I don't think Greenblatt did a bad job at all. That's not what I mean. It's purely a contextualization of the maturity that occurred across the amount of time in the war.
She should be older.
On the note of Anakin and Ahsoka, when he returns to what is the lesson, it is live or die. I also think everything we've talked about before, I think rings true. The other thing I think is something, this was my read, that Anakin is trying to impart to Ahsoka is in the way of how you respond to this. This is a lesson I failed. I chose, in a way, death. Because what does he say when he becomes Vader? He killed Anakin. Like, contextually, as he becomes this altered-eyed Sith character, he's killing younglings. He's killing Anakin Skywalker.
Killing younglings.
That is the death of Anakin. And he, while Darth Vader is also a part of him, it is he contextualizes, I chose death in that moment. I did not choose to live. And I want you to choose to live. And I think that's also really powerful and special, especially because they do the Ahsoka getting in close and her eyes changing for a moment to the Sith, like she can reflect that same destiny, and that's what she's afraid of, and chooses life. So trying to impart that, I will say, I don't think the execution on everything about what Anakin's trying to impart hits as much as I want it to. I kind of wish there was some form of acknowledgement about, like, verbally about her guilt over what he turned into, her personal guilt. And I don't think the execution of everything that Filoni wants to go for in this episode is there, but I think it's at 95%. And I do think that the idea of I lost this fight that I'm presenting to you, I want you to win it, is really good, and that she chooses not to finish him because he did choose to kick Mace Windu out that window.
No. Does every Jedi get out of jail, I'm gonna die free card and get to go into the world between worlds and get saved by my mentor? Or is it just the characters that we follow?
It's the one who has the sister of Mortis inside of her.
That's a good point.
The thing is, I think you could make an argument that, like, both of them have a very special connection to the Force, and so by both of their meditative powers combined, like, I can accept that this is a very unique.
No, that was the
channeling.
That's what I'm looking for. This wasn't a gotcha. I'm like, I don't want this to be a thing where somebody's about to die. Well, they're in the world between worlds. I'm like, I get it. Like this concept, like, you can't mess with it too much, man. You really can't, or for me at least.
I think that it's very much a kind of will of the Force thing. How the Force connects between these two characters in particular, which also allows Anakin to reach out to her,
reach out and touch faith,
because there is something to be receptive of from Ahsoka for that.
Okay, I'm gonna derail us. I can't continue. I'm trying, but I'm
Dude,
dying.
You're okay, bro. You made it an hour 45.
I would have liked to have gotten to the rest of my notes, but I cannot. So I'm going to bounce, and you guys, I want you guys to continue, please.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to pass them along?
I guess I can take a picture of them to you, and
we'll hit them up.
All right, cool. Okay, guys, sorry about this. Enjoy the rest of the.
No, dude, I get it.
Okay,
sickness happens. Feel better. All right.
Any other thoughts on Anakin, Ahsoka, that kind of part of the story?
I heard a nasty rumor. Now that the episode's over, I heard a nasty rumor before the show started that Anakin was going to battle Ahsoka in the same way that he fought Obi-Wan and Mustafar, and that was a rumor that I was scared to death was going to come true. But after this episode, I'm like, oh no, y'all got mixed up about what you're talking about. Nothing like that happened.
I will say that they do hearken to it.
They do
with the start.
I saw
like
I see
back
that
to the beginning, live or die,
Yeah.
and when he ignites the lightsaber, it's like you're not seeing the same shot, but he's in the same stance when he was facing away from Obi-Wan, ignited the lightsaber to start the fight. But he turns on.
Yeah,
her.
I heard because like there's like they were going to transition into Mustafar, and she was going to battle him in the same way that Obi-Wan did. That's what I heard, and I'm so glad that's not what happened.
I think the only reason I would have a problem with it is because it just doesn't mean anything to Ahsoka.
Yes.
If we ever had a reason to know Ahsoka had been to Mustafar, knew that Vader's castle was there or something like that, I think that could contextualize it enough that that's fine for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I prefer the way that it went,
100%,
especially in that context where like this would mean nothing to Ahsoka,
absolutely,
and just be for revenge.
Because again, like
fans.
This was all like weird, crazy sci-fi stuff that we're doing, like going to flashbacks, but like the core of it is still character stuff, and the character stuff is really good, and that's that's what makes all the action really great. So eventually she makes it out, right? Anakin's like, you did your job, you learned your lesson, you want to live, go float. She can hold her breath for a long time apparently, because she was in that water for who knows how long. Hours?
She could have been floating at the top.
Not when we saw her. She sunk down right at that moment. Carson was looking for her for like 8 hours. Chopper kept going lower until they were into the ocean. They eventually found her. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just got. Oh no, Brandon's sending his notes through. Yeah, I think just everything about Hayden Christensen getting to do it is just so special. And then we get our
Pergs
Ahsoka transition into truly being Ahsoka the White now.
She hands off the white.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
We're gonna see her bald. Keep that on. Sorry, Ahsoka. I'm not trying to be mean. Keep that headdress on.
She does a sense echo of Sabine's handing over.
She does her best Cal catches.
And truly, in contrast to the Ahsoka we've had in the previous episodes, like she is more at peace with the things that are happening now.
Yeah.
And there's less of a disappointment. There's no disappointment in Sabine for this or anything like that.
It's understanding.
I kind of got the sense that Ahsoka somehow kind of mellowed out a little bit. Like she's not as stressed and she doesn't have such a stick up her ass. Because like with the other episodes, like especially episodes 1, 2, and 3, it really felt like she was very tense. Like she was very like rigid and I have to go. I mean, there is an urgency in her actions. Like she wants to go to help Sabine. She's vowing to Hera she's gonna go get their friends back. But she's a lot more chilled out about it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Like
having that incident fighting with Anakin and essentially her own resolve of choosing to live and letting go of how she left Anakin is like, this isn't, like that, because Anakin turning into Vader was not her fault.
Right.
And of course, she's probably held on to the skill. If I had stayed with the Jedi Order, things would have been different. Order 66 may never happen. The war may never have started. And now that she's kind of let go of all this self-hatred or the self-anger and this self-disappointment, self-loathing, if you will, she is like, even Rosario Dawson's like portrayal of Ahsoka, she's like, let's go get her. She's very, very much more relaxed, and she's not like, she's not like, go, 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 go.
Notably, let's go get them. I'm going to bring them back.
Yeah.
This is the first time that she's been advocating, I'm going to get Ezra.
Yeah.
Too. This is now there's more hope, as we were talking about how there's an absence of hope with her when she says maybe nobody should find them if we're not going to be the one to find them. And now there's a lot of like hope and embracing of like the possibility of getting Ezra and saving them.
And this was the arc the whole time. And I know we talked about it with the first couple episodes that like people were like, oh, she's too strict, like get the stick out of her ass. And I'm like, no, I agree. Like this is the path. Like she's gotta get that stick out of there somehow. And this was the episode to do it. It just took Anakin pulling it out.
And also just like talking to a giant Purrgil, and she's like, hey, go into the mouth. And Huey's like, what?
Yeah.
Get in me.
So this is gonna get us there? I don't know.
I love that. Yeah, so they get out. The map's been broken. They go to the place where the map shows them, and like, how are we supposed to get there? She does a sense echo,
which is a little bit of like nobody thought before this moment maybe try following the Purgles, because that's what the map actually is too.
Yes,
is this Purgle space? It's not a map
directly here's the thing.
to
Thrawn. I don't know if anybody knows how they work, and I think it took Ahsoka communing with them to realize.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that, but like that was never a point of discussion of.
I don't think Morgan saw them as a threat at all.
Yeah.
Like that they could be used.
Right.
Because the short-sighted villains.
I did remember one last note. I want to go back on the Anakin Ahsoka thing, which is really love the sound mixing for that second bit when he storms her out on the bridge and he's doing the flashes and Vader, and he hunches forward and he says, "You lack conviction." You hear his voice, but you also hear the reverb of the Darth Vader kind of sound. Real good.
Yeah, that's some good editing work there.
I'm just gonna echo everything what you guys said, but that whole time, like when Anakin's rushing into battle and it's a quick blink and it's Vader's outline and it's back to Anakin, and even when he's rushing over to Ahsoka on the bridge, just seeing flashes of Vader, I was just like, yes! Because Anakin is Darth Vader. As much as we want to say Anakin is Anakin, he turns into Vader. He kills.
He's a bad boy.
Yeah, he is a bad boy. He turned to the dark side. But I just love seeing flashes of Vader, and we're not getting a whole fight with Ahsoka fighting Vader because she feels that she failed Anakin. And yeah, just the flashes of like, this is what I became.
She is fighting Vader. She's just not fighting his suit, because
he is Vader.
This is the important thing, is like,
Darth Vader is not the suit.
Why I think it was good to show Anakin, even though he's in his Sith eyes and everything, is because we are so used to dissociating the two, because you always see Vader in the outfit. Yeah. But
he became Vader.
That was him inside. Like,
in Revenge
this is what he looked like. Like, I know he was more scarred and everything, but this is him. Like, this is who the man inside of the suit. And so, like, I think it was so much better to see it this way, because we've seen the fights. Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi's great. Rebels is Obi-Wan Kenobi's fine. It's
the
good.
Fight is fine. The fight is good.
The fight is good. And Rebels is awesome. And we've seen the like bits where they confront Anakin is inside the suit, but we see the sliver. It wouldn't have felt right to have Vader's suit here. There's no reason. Like, the flashes are good to echo like the presence of him, but
Ahsoka's fought Vader anyway.
But it's Anakin's body that was in the suit. It's Anakin himself who had allowed his spirit to be corrupted to the dark side and become Vader. And he is Vader even without the suit. And I think that allows it to be so much more emotionally connected to him doing that.
And we fight Darth Vader in the suit in so many like video games too.
Yeah,
like, we don't need more Darth Vader fights.
We do. I was just saying it was just awesome to see the suit flashes, because I don't know why, but that just like struck a chord of like, this is good. Because obviously, I like seeing Hayden Christensen as Darth Vader, like out of the suit. Because you're 100% right. He is Darth Vader. That is Anakin inside the suit. We just know the suit more because, it's like the most popular suit in all of pop culture. But I 100% agree with you that she is fighting Vader. Like when he ignites his red lightsaber, I'm like, oh shit, we got Vader.
Yeah. And Brandon also sent over one of his notes was the Vader suit transitions are really well done and cool. And I think we all agree with that. Like the use of it is like just right.
Yeah, they could have overdone it.
The suit is there just right. You see it from the back in the fog once. You see a couple of flashes when he's storming the bridge. That's it. Like you get it.
Don't overdo
it, but like they don't push it.
And it has become an excellent meme already.
Good gift.
Brandon also said Ahsoka without a headpiece is too weird.
Yeah.
Keep it on. I'm sorry, girl. Keep it on. Keep that headdress on. Purgles look great. Everybody loves a good space whale.
Yeah, they look really good. Brandon said that the whole Purgle scene and them going to hyperspace and everything looked really cool.
Hyperspace butts.
He specifically highlighted, and I agree with him on this. This was something I was going to bring up, is the scene where Carson is stalling for time.
Yeah,
and it's like, just tell us what's going on. He's like, okay, but you're not gonna believe me.
he's like, if I tell you, you're not gonna believe it, but fine.
Yeah.
The whole the whole rebellion comes to confront Hera.
Three, not the whole rebellion, but three
Three capital
large
ships.
rebel fleets.
Like
yeah.
half the fleet comes to like, oh, yo, Hera,
Yeah.
you messed up.
Yeah, this is a little ridiculous.
Hera's like
mean-
one of their best. What are they doing?
I mean, if you think about it, they kind of do need those big ass cruisers because this is Hera, mother effing Syndulla we're talking
But
about.
what are you gonna?
But
like,
the point is, like, what are they doing? It's not like she's gone like
she's not gone rogue.
She's not
True.
trying to just undo or destroy anything. She didn't even really take that many resources. She took a small squad
She took 5
Yeah.
dudes.
and went to go check on this. And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yo, you didn't show up for that meeting. We gonna punish you. You are under
She
arrest."
took 5 dudes. They brought 300. They're like, yo,
Yeah.
where are my 5 dudes at?
Yeah, it like, and the thing is that, like, you know, just 2 episodes ago they were like, no, we can't spare those kind of resources to travel out into space on a rumor. And it's like, oh, but you went. Oh, okay, let's throw 3 capital ships. 3, Ben.
Yo.
1 would have
Yeah.
been fine.
You know who it was? It was that shitty blue-haired senator. It was like,
It
Cotter,
was.
everybody, we need everybody on here right now.
100%.
Yeah, exactly. I could definitely tell that guy was definitely on the. Oh, so normally protocol is we just send 1 cruiser to get like an officer
Yeah,
who just
one.
decided to go out. Yeah, this is. I just don't like Hera. Send 3.
I heard she loves
Overkill
the
this shit.
Empire. She told me that. She told me she loves the
She
Empire.
told me. I heard her. Yeah, no, it's insane. It's insane that they send this much power
For one of their
for her.
leading generals who's
so goofy.
Yeah.
What I will say though, on the other end of that, is that I think everybody does a really good job of having that like stunned, odd expression when they see the Purgles coming up
Oh,
from
yeah.
the planet. I think all these extras are small roles
absolutely.
that are on the rebel ships and everything, and then Carson, of course, and Hera and all that. But like, I think everybody does a very good job of being in awe of
Oh
the
yeah,
Purgles.
get out of the way.
They convince me of much like, not giving too much credit necessarily to one of the most iconic scenes ever, but like very much like how well Grant and Sattler do in Jurassic Park,
oh yeah,
seeing a Brachiosaurus that you know isn't there. Like I feel the awe
Yes.
and wonder of the Purgles,
absolutely.
which is really great because like we've seen the Purgles a lot, but like we haven't seen that reaction, and I thought that reaction was really
Absolutely.
touching and powerful.
And I love they're just going straight to like through the fleet, and they're like,
Yes.
we gotta get out of the way.
Brandon said the same, that the whole bit of her engaging with the whales and doing all that almost brought him to tears. Like it's very wondrous moment in Star Wars.
They find
kind of
they
thing.
find the mama Purgle. She gets on the ship. She puts her hand to it. She communes.
Yeah.
Take me really far away. And he's like,
Does
Ow.
does a
Get
pulls
on
a Finding Nemo?
yeah.
Yes, very much. P. Sherman 42 while you waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really I like Ahsoka's, you know, like white poncho look now that we're there. The
Yeah.
thing that Filoni was very clearly driving towards, like that's cool. No staff yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah,
Where's that stuff come from? Where'd it be?
I don't
The
know.
other guy.
The other galaxy. Are you telling me that all of Ahsoka takes place before that post-credit scene in Rebels?
No, they've retconned it.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
that
they
scene
retconned it.
happens in the show.
Yeah.
It's when she comes to Sabine at the end of episode 2 of this show, and she says, "I think we found a way to find Ezra."
Oh.
They've altered the physicalness of that scene to fit this
Oh.
story, so it's a small retcon.
Got it.
Yeah.
Because that was the tease, and like now we're getting the full thing. And he's like, "Well, I need to take her on an arc."
We got George Lucas.
yeah.
Learn
But
from the
it's a-
best.
it's
I
a
told
retcon.
you when we were doing the last Ahsoka discussion that like people have talked about watching that again on Disney Plus
Yes.
and thing. Like I think they grayed down her
That's
her
right.
robes a little bit. I don't think they look as white as they used to.
She got grade.
Yeah, Gandalf the Grey. I just can't wait to see the next episode. To be perfectly honest, I cannot wait. Actually, even tonight because we're recording this on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, at the time.
At the time. Who knows when
So-
this episode gets released?
What's fun is like besides the one shot of Thrawn that we saw in the trailer, we have now seen every single piece of promotional art that's been in the trailer, all the trailers. So we are now officially in new territory for these last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8. Hell yeah, 3 episodes. Hell yeah. Thank God it's not a 6. Oh, thank God it's not a 6, guys. Could you imagine if next week was the last episode? Fuck.
So I'm personally in the place where I think that you know, we're going to spend the next 3 episodes somewhere else, and at the end of that last episode is going to be them getting back to the main like at least Thrawn is going to get back to the main galaxy.
At least Thrawn.
I think he's going to beat them back.
Yes, Thrawn will because we do know the one shot of him is on the Eye of Sion.
I don't think this is a one and done season.
No.
Even with the big film coming,
it'll be so incredible if
there has to be
if like Ahsoka and Sabine are trapped in another galaxy for a season
with Ezra.
Yeah, that'd be so interesting, man. God, that'd be so cool. Well, guess we'll have to find out soon.
Yeah, I'm excited for where things are headed. Obviously we allude to, like, we were recording this before episode 6 came out, but our episodes are far postponed because of the strikes. I did want to mention that this is because of this episode 5 is one of the first times I've really been like, God damn it, about the strikes, in the sense of I really want to hear what the writers and actors would have to say.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. I really, really desperately wish Dave Filoni could be out there talking about this episode. Like, I think it's such a shame for his career to have been building to a moment like this.
Magnum Opus project.
Yeah. And he can't talk about it right now and engage with the fans over it right now. And that's going to have to wait a bit longer.
You know what's so crazy?
Obviously, the strikes are more important.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to say.
So
I'm
crazy
just like,
because
I wish I could hear.
If he were just the director, he would be able to. But because he's also writing the show, he can't do shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's your show, baby.
Yeah.
What a shame.
Yeah.
What a wonderful, wonderful gift.
Yeah.
I think this last episode was.
Absolutely.
I think we're all on the same page. I'm sure Brandon is.
It seemed like it. This definitely, it feels like the best possible way of doing like something like fan service, and like it's actually meaningful, and like it feels like it's like a buildup of everything, like the perfect way you service a fan. I know I'm kind of people who do not watch Rebels are not going to get the same thing. This is absolutely
100%. I was going to change my.
Sorry.
No, it's I know I'm revisiting something I said earlier, but I truly I don't think I realized how much I didn't feel like Anakin's story post getting the prequels, because of how much we got there.
Yeah.
Wasn't finished with Return of the Jedi, and now I feel like there's kind of this like epilogue for Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader that like really makes me feel good. As a Star Wars fan, to feel like I have had a full journey with Anakin Skywalker now, in a way I didn't before.
Because like Anakin Skywalker is the chosen one. Like he became Darth Vader, but he is the one who defeats the Emperor in 6. And I'm going to ignore 789 to discredit the chosen one thing. But he's the chosen one, right? He's the dude. Like he's Jesus. So like the fact that like he had the Jesus arc and then became bad, but he didn't get to like enjoy the good stuff out of it. Like now that he's dead, he destroyed the Emperor. Like there should be some good stuff. He should be a nice Force ghost. Like I would love to see more Anakin. Like, yo man, I messed up, but I'm here now and I'm doing my best.
I like him as like, Obi-Wan and Yoda are very much like these light side ghosts that can engage. And I like the idea that Anakin, should he ever appear again, and it'd have to be a good reason, but like if he were to, is much more like I'm at the center of the balance, and I kind of commune on both.
He's a libertarian in Star Wars. He sees both sides.
In that context, I hate it. Okay, I think that's an episode. That I knew this was going to be a big one, big discussion. Any other thoughts, Ben?
I had one, but it slipped my mind.
If you think of it before we wrap out, go ahead and say it.
Got purgled away.
Okay, so this has been Fake Nerds Watch. We are doing Ahsoka. We're doing it as it comes out, but you're not going to see it for who knows how long because of the strikes, and that's okay.
What year is it?
I remember my bit because earlier I touched on how much fun I can tell Hayden Christensen was having. Someone tweeted, they retweeted something Rosario Dawson said, and I believe she said that her and Hayden Christensen went to acting school together.
They did,
yes. So the fact that they're back on, like, there was like this quick little gif of her turning around and seeing Hayden in his costume, and they're like giving each other this huge hug. So really just seeing each other, just like seeing that bit of them on the set in their costumes, like how far they've come along. It warms my heart, really.
Yeah.
Just especially to see how, even like with actors like I'm gonna bring On My Best in, because On My Best, when he first started as Jar Jar, the horrible things that fans said, because toxic fans are everywhere. When that's something we, as much as we want to, we can't unfortunately change because people are gonna be dicks. BT Dubs, don't be a dick. And the fact that he came back and people have embraced him not only as Jar Jar, but then he has that great redemption arc in that scene of that Order 66 scene in Mandalorian, as a Jedi, and he's doing more Star Wars stuff is, to me, amazing. And the same with Hayden Christensen. I remember a lot of people talking about how bad of an actor he was in the prequels. Now it's like, bring him back. We love Hayden Christensen. There's like the fans and people have done this a whole 180. I was like, look, the prequels are the prequels, but there's good stuff in here. We're not all focusing on the bad. And
Right.
to see these actors come back to their roles and not only just embracing them, but having fun with them. It's like, it's Star Wars, baby. Let's have some fun. Let's get grooving.
Listen,
I
man, acting, yeah, you can be a good or bad actor, but also being a good director of actors is really important. George
Yeah.
Lucas is not that. So
No.
even the best actors like Liam Neeson
Natalie
and Natalie Portman
Mhm.
get nothing to do. So like
Mhm.
it's not all on Hayden. It's not all on
Right.
his fault.
No, 100%. And I think that
But all those
seeing
other
these-
actors, to your point, had like careers
Career,
that
yeah.
they could look at and be like, no, we know.
Yeah,
And then Hayden Christensen, like he was kind of just standing on this at the time.
it's true. It's true.
Yeah. So just to see, I mean, I will always be happy to see Hayden Christensen back as Anakin / Vader. I'm just glad he's having a fun time with it. I'm just glad
Yeah.
he's enjoying life again, to be perfectly honest. And even I can tell Rosario Dawson's having fun. So I'm just happy that this show exists, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah,
Sure.
I agree. I think that's a wonderful sentiment to
Yeah.
close it out on. To your point of what you were saying, I think like that history between Hayden and Dawson also helps with the Anakin Ahsoka, history and feeling like that connects.
Mhm.
Okay, this has been Fake Nerds Watch. For Ahsoka, we are recording as they come out. Obviously, they are coming out for you later. You're listening to us in the future that we don't know when it is because we have postponed our episodes due to the strikes because we are in full support of them. So around this time, there have been other things. Star Trek Lower Decks has been going out for Brandon. So those Fake Nerd Watches are being released. Everything's released gradually as it comes out. Once the date has arrived for that. So anyway, check out all our other stuff, whatever else has come out in our Cinephiles, our Fake Nerds Watches, Real Score, etc., etc. Who knows when this is? But we have tons of basement arcades and Fake Nerd book clubs if you want to check those out, because we definitely were piling on those for the time when we were suspended during the strikes.
True.
And that'll do it. Any other things you want to check out, go ahead to fakenerdpodcast.com. Make sure to like and subscribe to your podcast listeners, to your YouTube channels, all that kind of stuff. Ben, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me studying the Force at Ben Maggot 27 on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads. They can also find me writing for Old School Gamer Magazine, Fusion Gaming Magazine, GoNintendo.com, and playing Mary Frankenstein in D and Dark.
Very true, very true. Ryan.
Oh, you can find me making Shin Hati, a evil cleric in Baldur's Gate 3 at DJ Tony Snark everywhere all the time.
You can find Brandon at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. He also writes for AtomicGeekdom.com. And you can find me recognizing that this is where the fun begins at Sparkz Woody on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty. All right, that'll do it. Until next time, stay fake nerds.